Hey, welcome back to Peak Human. I'm Brian Sanders. I'm the creator of the Food Lies documentary series. I run the Instagram food.lies, and I run nosetotale.org, where you get fresh meat delivered to your door. We have animal-based body care products. We have biltong, which is like beef jerky, but a lot better, and some other things as well. Check us out at nosetotale.org. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going back and listening to the old episodes, sharing with a friend, giving us a review on iTunes or any podcast app. And also, thanks for going to sapien.org and getting your free food guide. That's something I just updated. Go to sapien.org. You can download the free food guide, How to Live the Sapien Diet and Lifestyle. I just updated it. I realize I don't give all my diet advice in one place. People always ask me, what do you eat? What do you recommend? It's not easy to go back and listen to all these podcasts and figure it out. So I put it all in one place. So grab it there, sapien.org. You can get it by just putting in your email. And now onto this show today. I had two guests. It was so fun. I talked to my friends Logan Delgado and Robert Sikes, both really great nutrition minds, both entrepreneurs, both super big buff dudes. They are awesome. I love these guys. I've known them for years now. We finally did a podcast. I thought it'd be great to have them on together so we could talk about two kind of opposing thoughts on building muscle. This is way beyond building muscle though, guys. This is for the general public. This is not just for bodybuilding bros. We talk a lot about practical info that anyone can do, young or old. Listen to the end. I feel like always the podcast gets good at the end. We get to the really fun parts. We get to the more practical parts. We get to the more interesting parts at the end. So you have to listen all the way through. Use that 2x speed. I try to make these each really valuable. I go long. I go 90 minutes. I hope everyone likes them long like this. I don't like these short soundbite culture that we have now where you can't get into depth. So this one's really cool. A lot of great takeaways on what to eat, how to have a better body composition, how to lose fat. What about keto diets? What about adding carbs? What is an ancestral diet? What are humans supposed to eat? What about mindset? Mindset stuff. We talk about eating disorders. We talk about the psychological side. This one was really cool. We also talked about KetoCon. KetoCon is coming up here in Austin. It's a great time to come visit the Sapien Center. We're having a huge party on April 22nd. Mark your calendars. Even if you don't go to KetoCon, we're going to have a great party with a bunch of good food, a bunch of good people like Robert and Logan. So many other great people coming to town for the conference. All the nutrition influencers will be there. It's going to be the who's who in the nutrition world. This conference just isn't about keto. This is about metabolic health. We're going to have a booth there. Nose to Tail is going to have a booth. I'm going to be hanging around the whole time. I'm going to be speaking on Sunday. I think you guys should come. Get $50 off your tickets with the code FOODLIES. I'm helping them out. They're helping me out. KetoCon is great. Go to ketocon.org. Get some tickets for this weekend. It's super fun. A lot of great talks. Get $50 off with the code FOODLIES and come hang out with us on Saturday night for the big party and Thursday night for the meetup. We're doing a meetup with Well Fed and Yeka. She basically runs Well Fed for me. We have great meals with our good nose to tail meat, and we're getting them out to people in Austin. And we're going to be serving a lot of great food at a meetup on Thursday and serving food on Saturday as well. So mark that on your calendar. Come to Austin, come hang out, come to the Sapien Center. It's a good excuse to visit Austin and hang out. So please enjoy this one. Please go to nosetotale.org. Make a meat box for yourself. Get it delivered to you. We got the primal ground beef with the organs mixed in. We got the body care products. We got deodorant now. We got the hair care now. We're just putting that online as of this weekend, right before this podcast comes out. So you can get the hair product, which is great. You don't want to put weird stuff in your hair. It soaks up into your body. You don't want to put weird stuff under your arm either. You don't want wacky deodorants with crazy stuff and aluminum and fake scents. Our stuff is beef tallow. It's regenerative beef tallow, and it's essential oils, just natural stuff. So get that at nosetotale.org. Really proud of these. Use these all the time. Get that food guide, the free food guide at sapien.org. And that's about it. Just enjoy the show with Logan and Robert. I'm telling you, it's a fun show, good takeaways, and I'll see you next week. All right. We are live with Robert Sikes and Logan Delgado. How's it going, guys?
What's up? It's going good.
Awesome. I'm so glad we got this together. It was kind of a last minute thing. I just had this idea. I love you guys both. You know, we hang out when you come to Austin. Logan's just south of Austin. Robert, you are in
Arkansas. Northwest
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
That's right. A lot of people actually that I know went hunting with you recently. And maybe I'll get out there one day. You have your own compound out there for your business. I used to call my Sapien Center the compound, which it's not really a compound. It's really just a warehouse and an outdoor area and some fun stuff to do. But you have your own thing over there. So we're just going to talk about a few things today. I think muscle building, because you guys are both way larger men than me. You guys are jacked. You guys are fit. If anyone's not looking, you can look both these guys up. These guys are the real deal. People think just because I have a few photos where I have good lighting, they think that I'm a big dude. I am not a big dude. If you meet me in person, you're like, where'd he go? This guy might disappear soon. But I don't know. I have a slight.
You look good,
amount.
man. You're in great shape. Stop it. I've seen you up close. I've seen you in person. Yeah, you're definitely you're in most. You're in better shape than most, for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm just a lean guy, and it's kind of hard for me to put on muscle. I'm not going to make excuses, though. I just don't try very hard to put on muscle, right? I'm sure if I actually put in the work, I could put on muscle. But for my limited weightlifting that I do in my limited time, it's hard for me to do, which could be one of the topics. But you guys both have been doing it for a lot of years. You've been in the nutrition space for a lot of years. You guys are great. And so I thought we'd get together and talk about building muscle, but also talk about carbs, I think specifically, because that's just a hot debate, right? Everyone has their opinion on carbs and this and that. And you guys have businesses around it too. I mean, BioCoach, you guys measure people's blood glucose, and Robert has, Keto Savage. He's like, I can build muscle doing keto, right? So it's like, you guys are both kind of understanding that there's got to be thought behind the carb intake, but I think there could be some nuance there. It's like, I think Logan's more, I don't want to speak for you, but you can tell me your stance. I think each person should say their stance is that carbs can help build muscle. Maybe it's not required, right? You look at the research, it's not required. You need protein and you need load to build muscle, but maybe they can help. And then maybe Robert's more, hey, I don't need it. I can build muscle just fine. So Logan, maybe you can say your stance.
Yeah, no, it's everything you said is absolutely true. And Robert and I have talked about this many times, and we've been doing this for a long time. Like people have asked, like you've mentioned. And so just kind of for people who are new to this channel, or maybe new to me, my name is Logan Delgado. I'm the co-founder of BioCoach. We specialize in helping people fix their metabolic dysfunctions. We track blood glucose. We have an A1C test and meal plans, healthy food options with meals delivered straight to your door. And so that's kind of my background. But also before, the whole keto space got really big, I got into lifting. And the evolution of my training and dieting has definitely changed, guys. What you have to understand is, like, when I first started, I was severely overweight. I was on medications for high cholesterol, high blood pressure. I was depressed. My body was a mess, right? And so I got into my weight loss journey, my fitness journey, and started working out. And then it wasn't until a couple of months in that I accidentally discovered the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. And once I discovered those two methods, results came like overnight. And I was documenting this on my YouTube channel, and people were freaking out because, again, at the time, I didn't even know I was doing the ketogenic diet. People are like, how are you losing weight? How are you getting shredded? Because back then that was the term everybody wanted to get shredded in like 2015, 2016, right? It's like, it was the term everyone was using. And so, people were just losing their minds. So like, how is this guy eating fat and losing fat? This is crazy. And so, fast forward a couple of years down the road, I lost a total of 70 pounds, and I looked great, right? I looked phenomenal. I was off all my medication. I had reversed my type 2 diabetes, reversed my insulin resistance. I was no longer obese, no longer had to take any of the medications that I was taking. And yeah, so then from there, I was like, okay, well, I don't need to lose any more weight. I'm not trying to lose any more weight. I've met my goal weight, or I feel healthy. It's time to build muscle. And then from that period on, my evolution of dieting and workouts totally changed. I was able to start incorporating more carbs where they wouldn't have the negative effect that typically carbs used to have on me, where when I would eat them and I would have this massive, spike for a long period of time, and then, come crashing down and I feel horrible, want to go take a nap and just, just overall just wreck my body. But at the same time, I also wasn't eating the same carbs that I was eating back then when I was overweight. My carbs back then was like some cereal, some chips, popcorn, just crap. Now it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have some sweet potatoes. I'm gonna have some white rice. I'll have some lentils and just clean whole foods carbs. And so definitely it changed, and I started to introduce carbs a little bit more. And in my building muscle phase. So that's kind of my backstory. And then that's when I discovered Robert, and I saw Robert and we've chatted many times on how he is built muscle in the beginning and has still built muscle in the beginning, doing a very, very strict, ketogenic diet. So I kind of want to hear Robert's take, and then from there get to the points where we're at today and then moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah. Give us the whole background, Robert. I should have teed you up. Thanks for giving that whole background and context for you, Logan. But yeah, Robert, do the same.
Yeah, so I started lifting. I was 115 pounds when I started working out. I was like the small guy in high school. Like I literally was so self-conscious about the size of my arms that I never wore a t-shirt in high school. Like it was pretty bad. And I started, eating big to get big. I was eating like 6,000 calories a day. I bulked up to 230 pounds, and I'm 5'7", 5'8", so 230 on me is not a good look. And then I was eating carbs throughout that whole time. I was just eating food, like anything I could eat to get the calories in. And I was in college at that point, so it was not quality food because I was broke. I would get like 800 calorie macho chimichangas from the gas station and eat that. Not a good quality source of nutrition by any means. And then I did my first competition as a sophomore in college. I lost 80 pounds in 12 weeks for that. Lost a ton of muscle in the process. And I won the competition, but I got, it was not healthy. I developed a bunch of disordered eating tendencies with that. And I did 2 other shows in 2015, kind of following a similar protocol, doing like bro dieting and if it fits your macros approach, which is all involving carbohydrates. And then in 2015, I started doing carbohydrate backloading developed by John Kiefer, which is basically keto during the day and then high glycemic index carbs at night. So I would eat pretty much keto, and then I would finish the night off with like a, Betty Crocker tray full of brownies covered in peanut butter and syrup and trying to get the high glycemic index carbs in. And my body responded well to that, to the extent that it kind of like allowed me to feed into those binging tendencies without having negative recourse per se. But I realized that, brownies every night probably wasn't the most sustainable picture of health. So I started just phasing out the carbs, and I was doing carb backloading without the carbs, which lo and behold is pretty much keto. And this was before there was really any information about keto on the market. There wasn't any books or podcasts or websites or blogs on keto in 2015. There certainly weren't any products with keto in 2015. And I just fell in love with how my body felt with that approach to not having the carbs. My relationship with food improved, and I felt like I was able to kind of bypass that disordered eating tendency. So I just decided to keep doubling down on that zero or very low carb approach. And then I decided to compete in 2017 with this ketogenic approach. Got a whole bunch of pushback from people I trained with. They're like, you can't possibly get shredded without carbs. You can't possibly build muscle without carbs. You can't possibly get a pump on stage and have a vascular look without carbs. And I'm just like, well, even if that's the case, I feel really good without the carbs. It's given me my mind back. I don't have that disordered eating tendency. So if nothing else, that is worth it. So I basically just did that approach in 2017, followed a ketogenic diet, got leaner than I'd ever gotten, earned my pro card status, and haven't really looked back since. So I've been strict keto now since I started pretty much in 2015. And I've just tried to become a light for people that don't do well with carbs. Because a lot of people simply don't. They have an addictive tendency towards it. And I don't want them to feel like they can't excel at a high level without carbs. So I kind of want to just showcase to them that it's totally possible. And I think I could totally introduce them in my own personal life if I wanted to, but I certainly don't feel like it's necessary because I keep getting better year by year without the carbs. So I keep the carbs pretty minimal.
I love it. It goes to show that, you have different approaches. That's where I'm at now with my film, and just my thoughts in general is, man, there's so many approaches, and there's a lot of wrong approaches too. I hate the idea. It's like, hey, everyone, there's no one size fits all. I'm like, well, kind of, but kind of not. It's like these one size fits all, no one size fits all people. They're just kind of like, eat whatever you want, fits your macros, calories in, calories out, eat everything in moderation. And I'm not into all that. I'm into figuring out what works for you in the context of a healthy diet, which is kind of just math, really. It's just like human physiology and biology and nutrient density, right? It's just like, okay, well, your body wants protein and nutrients. It wants vitamins and minerals and essential fats, and it wants the correct amount of energy. And that can be from fats or carbs. And you got to figure out how you're not going to overeat that energy. So many people are eating the refined fats, refined carbs, they're overeating, and they're having trouble. So it's like, if you find that approach that allows you to not overeat those energy calories, then you're mathematically going to be doing good, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter what the name of your diet is. It's just what you can pull off with the correct nutrient density.
One thing I want to talk about too is something that I think a lot of people tend to overlook, and I think it's a big part of someone's journey and someone's fitness journey, and that's my emotion towards food. It's very emotional, right? You've probably seen it a lot when people are sad. What do? They normally run to the kitchen and grab some cookies and ice cream and sit on the couch and eat their emotions away. When I first started, I was very hard on myself emotionally. If I were to have a cheat day, which would be not even a cheat day, but a cheat meal, if I were to have some pizza or some ice cream, I would absolutely punish myself, and I would feel worthless. I would feel so guilty. I'm like, what am I doing? I can't believe I ate that slice of pizza. Oh my God, I can't believe I had that ice cream. And then the next day I would go and do an hour-long cardio session, fast for 24 hours, have this intense workout, just punishing myself because I can't believe, Logan, you had that pizza. Like, you're so stupid, and all these negative voices in my head, and constantly putting myself down because I still had that fat person inside me. Like, I was like, I lost weight and made tremendous progress, but inside I still had that fat person mentality, and it was bad. I had a bad relationship with food, and I know a lot of people who are listening to this probably still do, especially if you're just starting your weight loss journey and your muscle building journey, right? Like Robert said, he didn't even want to wear, he would cover up because he was, didn't like the way his muscles looked. And it's one of those things like, body dysmorphia, all that I think plays a huge role. And it took me, almost 2, maybe even longer, years to get over that emotional part of eating, where I wouldn't punish myself, where, if I had a pizza, it's okay. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you take a step back, I'm probably eating 95% clean, whole foods, following my plan. And then the other 5%, life happens, right? So for me, and people listening to this, and you may maybe not know me, so I'm Mexican American. I always kind of joke around about this on my platforms. I have a big ass Mexican family, and we like to get together. We like to hang out, and my culture, it's always surrounded by a lot of food, and we get together on Sundays, on the weekends, and like I said, it's not the best food you should be eating. Tortillas, rice, beans. It's a lot of carbs. And I remember always going to like family events and just being stressed out. Like, damn, man, what's my aunt going to make? Like, she ain't going to make me any food. I got to bring my own food. Like, damn it. And like, not really focusing on the important thing, which is spending time with family, like making memories, spending time with loved ones, hanging out with my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my relatives, not, constantly thinking like, oh, how many carbs are in here? Oh, this is going to knock me out of ketosis. Oh my God, is this going to make me fat? Oh my God, am I going to spike my blood sugar? Like just thinking about nonsense things. And so, yeah, I think I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's very important to realize, like, look, guys, one meal, one day is not gonna demolish your progress and all the weeks and months and years you put into the gym. And just realizing that, look, life happens, an anniversary, a birthday, whatever happens, like you can still enjoy your life and enjoy, occasional foods for here and there, as long as it, it doesn't go out of control, doesn't snowball. But I think emotion plays a huge role in your health journey. And I kind of want to know from your aspect, Robert, that, how long did it take for you to get over that mindset, that you had at the beginning?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think emotion does play a massive role in dietary choices and sustainability. For me, like I think like I was really screwed up from a disordered eating standpoint. I mean, I literally remember like binging and purging on foods. Like I remember after my second or third competition, I went into IHOP and I ordered literally every single thing that they had on the menu. One of every pancake they sell at IHOP. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of pancakes at IHOP. It's the International House of Pancakes. And I ate it all. And then like the 3 days following that, I literally only allowed myself 6 cans of tuna. Like it was not a good thing, not a good chapter in my life. And then when I started doing the ketogenic diet, I didn't feel guilty about the foods I was consuming. I think associating guilt with the foods you eat triggers a lot of those disordered eating tendencies. I eat quality foods now. Everything I eat is very high in nutrient density. I don't feel guilty about anything that I consume. Because I don't feel guilty about anything I consume, I'm not plagued with this, desire to binge and purge, so to speak. And for me, and when I've found success with in myself and in the clients I've worked with, is just to, take that emotional tie away from the foods you consume. Like if you're only eating things that you can feel good about and confident, knowing that they're nourishing your body, you're not likely going to be plagued with that sense of guilt associated with eating them. So I don't cheat. I don't have, I haven't deviated from a ketogenic diet since I started the ketogenic diet. And for me, that's totally sustainable. Like I like pizza too, but I'll make a keto fathead pizza and that totally fills my cup for that desire of a pizza. And it's this way with everything. Like I'll make a keto cheesecake if I want to have a dessert. Like I don't eat those things on a regular basis, but when I do, I make them a ketogenic, and then I don't have to feel guilty around eating them. Because like the pizza that I eat, we eat pizza pretty much every Friday. We have like pizza night, but it's like a quality ketogenic fathead pizza with quality ingredients on there. So I don't feel guilty about it, and therefore I don't feel like I have to try and reprimand myself for eating it. And I think I don't like that people associate food with this like risk reward treat system. Like I don't think people should lean into having a treat around food. Like I view food as a nutritional requirement. I view food as a means to an end. And yes, I enjoy food, but I don't give food power over my purpose. And I feel like if you are able to adopt that relationship with food, then it's very liberating. And that doesn't mean you have to just, limit yourself to, the most bland foods in the world. But if you don't feel like it, if you don't put food on a pedestal, you're able to be very much more concise in what you consume and how you consume it and when you consume it, and just not have a hold over you.
I like that angle for sure. I think what it comes down to is it's always going to come down to this is like the individual. And I think there's kind of maybe 2 types of people. There's like the moderator or the abstainer. And there's maybe more subsets of people within those groups. And you're kind of the abstainer, Robert, but it's not, you're abstaining. It's not like you're using your willpower so much to abstain. It's not like, oh man, I wish I could just eat everything under the rainbow. You're like, no, when I want it, I have it and I make it my own way. And then Logan, I'm on both sides too. I think maybe I'm more on Logan's side, where it's like, it's not a big deal to me to eat like a normal pizza or a normal, whatever, like at an event. I know people think that I'm some saint, I'm doing all this nutrition content. The whole time I've been saying, I'm not 100% perfect. Like that's just not me, but maybe that's because I can be a moderator. And I do have I had to evolve too from my own eating problems, and I can talk about those real quick because everyone has been sharing about their experience with that, and I think that's an important thing. I don't do a lot of podcasts on the mindset or talking about problems around food and eating disorders. It's a huge psychological component, and it needs to be talked about. But I found that I can have a meal of things that I don't recommend, and it's like, oh man, I had some French fries. It's like, okay, I know they were fried in some seed oils, but I know I'm not going to die because I had a couple French fries one time when I was traveling. So I want to get all these messages out there, but yeah, people need to know, are they an abstainer or a moderator? And then lean into that and then not have to use their willpower. It's changing your mindset. I like how Robert had changed his mindset around food where it wasn't relying on willpower. I hate that because so many of the mainstream diet stuff, the Keto, calories in, calories out, eat less, move more. It's all around this idea that restrict. You need to restrict to lose weight. You just need to always be using your willpower. Eat the salad with no dressing. Eat the bland foods that are terrible. Low fat this, low fat that. And that's just not sustainable. That never works. You need to enjoy your diet. You need to not rely on willpower. So maybe that's the biggest hack is how can you design your lifestyle and eating plan where you don't rely on willpower? And for Robert, that's his way. Logan has his other way. It can both work because you're not relying on your willpower because you get to have your treats in your own way. And also actually just treats in general. I think that's a good message. I don't have kids, but I talk to a lot of parents. It's like, you don't want to use food as a reward.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Robert's saying. It's like, if you start using treats and then it's like, oh, well, if you do this, you can have that. And then this, that's just a slippery slope that kind of can create disordered eating. And I guess I will talk about my kind of disordered eating. I think I am a little bit coming from that background of like the binge type of attitude where like I could just go nuts, and my whole life I've just been, once I start eating, I can't stop, and I just want to eat everything in sight. And maybe that's why I settled on this way of eating, because it works for me. Because I eat 2 meals a day and I don't snack at all, because snacking, that's like using I don't have to use willpower to avoid snacking. I just am not interested in food anymore. I'm using no willpower to not snack because I eat 2 large meals and I eat really nutrient dense foods, and I fill my meals up with the protein and whole foods, and I'm getting the good fats. Like I'm not just saying eat anything under the sun. It's like, if you're very thoughtful about what you eat, you can be very satiated, you can be very nutrient dense, and then you won't think about food for a long time. So it's like I almost get to have my cake and eat it too by, quote, binge eating. Not really binge eating, but I get to gorge out on amazing plates of food with steak and eggs and like avocado and like sauerkraut and pickles and like bacon and cheese and all these things, but it's all nutrient dense. It's very thoughtful, and I quote can binge in my head, but it's like a good kind of binging where I'm eating a lot of good foods and then I'm not eating for a while, then I'm eating a lot of good foods and I'm not eating for a while. So it's kind of helped me with my own sort of negative energies around eating, where I don't know if it's a scarcity thing where I grew up and, my parents were pretty frugal and we never got to go out to eat very much. And, it was just sort of like boring food. And when I got to go to my friend's house and eat like good food, I would go nuts. And it's like, oh my God, are you kidding? Like we can eat whatever we want, or we don't have to, we can actually order the things that I like to order. And so I like still have that it's like, oh my God, I'm at a buffet. I can eat whatever I want. Wow. And I have to like reel myself in. But then there's even strategies around that. You go to a buffet, okay, well, like just go for all the good whole foods, all the protein, all the good stuff like that. And then you're really full. And then maybe, then go for some of the other foods. And then maybe you'll just have a little bit and you'll be fine. So I've been hogging the mic. Do you have anything else, Logan, on that? You can
go. No, I could literally talk for hours about this, and I know I want to move on to the next topic, but everything you said, like I can relate to. I remember like my parents were very frugal. I remember like we lived off the dollar menu. Like we were not allowed to order the 1 through 10 menu. Like it was like whatever's on the dollar menu is what you can have. Right. And I remember staying at a friend's house, and he orders a meal from like what I would assume would be like the adult like menu, like a number 5. And I'm like, wait, you get to have that? Like, I've never ordered a number 5. Like, I've always had to just get whatever's on the dollar menu. Like, and I'm like, I remember like in the car and his mom's like, what do you want? And I'm like, the same thing. It was so weird to me. Because we just never ate like that. Well, I was never able to eat that much food, but at the same time, you know, my family, you know, our culture's not educated on nutrition. And again, like they lived in a different time where it was like you just worked, came home, right? Now, you know, we have the benefits of social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, where you can get all the knowledge you want on nutrition. So very, very lucky and blessed that my kids get to grow up in a world where, you know, fitness is highlighted and nutrition's highlighted. But yeah, that's another thing, right? That we can talk about for hours, and like how the social structure works on like, there just wasn't any good education for my culture on eating healthy. It's never was talked about. It was never brought up. It was just like, hey, you go to work, make a quick TV dinner and wake up and do it all over again. So I like as a child, I never talked about, my parents never talked about nutrition, healthy food. And yeah, it's one of those things that, yeah, we could talk forever about it and the social structures of it, but just very blessed that, you know, nowadays our kids get to grow up in a world where it's highlighted and the importance of eating right, exercise, and the benefits, not from a vanity standpoint, but just an overall human performance.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Robert, do you have anything else on this kind of like mindset and like mental side before we move on?
No, I think, I mean, I just echo everything that you are saying. I think, you know, sustainability is key with any type of dietary protocol, and whether someone's doing a, you know, like we can talk about how an animal-based species appropriate diet would probably be the most ideal from a performance standpoint. Like if someone just simply can't stick with that and that's going to cause them binging and all kinds of stuff, then I would suggest they probably need to change their mindset. But if they're not there yet and they find a vegan diet more sustainable and they're able to keep that in moderation, they're probably going to see a lot of health benefits that come from that sustainability factor more so than anything else. So really trying to figure out what is sustainable for you. And then ideally that also falls within the realm of a species appropriate diet with quality nutrient dense foods. You know, that is absolutely paramount. And to kind of echo what Logan was saying, you know, how we are brought up, how we are raised, that lays the groundwork. Like when Crystal was pregnant, and both of our wives' names are Crystal. So when my Crystal was pregnant, you know, we were talking about, you know, what can she do from a vitamin and mineral standpoint now before she ever even gets pregnant to kind of lay the foundation for the fetus, for the upbringing throughout the pregnancy, and then what she maintained from a dietary standpoint while she was pregnant, and now post-pregnancy with breastfeeding. Like there's so much that can be done to set that newborn up for success, nutritionally speaking, and then can just continue to compound over time. And I feel like we all make the best decisions that we are able to with the knowledge that we have at the time. And my parents also weren't really knowledgeable about nutrition, but we all just, you don't know what you don't know. So you learn it. And then as you do learn it, try and implement it. So yeah, I feel very blessed that we're all in a time now where this is more top of mind, and we hopefully take that knowledge and put it into action.
Great stuff. And I like that you said animal-based species appropriate diet, and use an example of veganism. I would say maybe let's use an example of pescatarian, or, you know, something where at least they get some of that animal nutrition in there. And I have no problem if people, you know, yeah, if they feel like they can stick to this more plant-based approach and that works for them. I mean, go for it. And maybe it's not going to work forever. Who knows? But if it works for you, go for it. But at least include those animal foods. Like get some of that. Get some oysters at the very least. You know, you can eat all your plant foods. Get those oysters. You get a lot of nutrient density in just a few oysters per week. But I think, real quick, we could do your guys' dietary approach in general. Like, what do you think is a species appropriate diet, Logan?
Yeah, I kind of want to. So it's funny. I got a coach when I was getting ready for my first competition, and you know, he asked me, okay, I know you do keto. I know you're really big on the low carb space. How do you want to approach this competition? And I told him I want to do it the ketogenic style. You know, I want to be checking my ketones. And he's like, okay, Cool. I normally don't coach people doing a show like that, but it's all good. Let's do it. For your channel, for your content, let's do it. And this was in 2020. And we did a low carb ketogenic style competition. And we had amazing results, like great results, the best I've ever looked. Fast forward, I was supposed to compete in May. We all know what happened, right? The pandemic happened, so everything got shut down. But I continued that competition approach, and it was great. Like I loved it. Like there was nothing, like I wasn't like, oh my God, I missed carbs or I missed this. And then, everything started opening back up in the winter time. And I remember going back to my coach and saying, hey, I still think we have time to compete. And I've kept my physique, or I've kept my, I've kept my conditioning. I've kept it for this long. Like, let's ramp things up. And he's like, okay, well, this time I want to do carbs. Let's just see. And I was like, okay. I was kind of like reluctant. I was like, oh damn, like, I don't know, man. Like, never done it this way. But what the hell? Let's do it. And we did it. And guess what? Same results. I looked great, felt great, best I've ever looked, right? And did really well at the show. And so that just goes to show, like, whenever I talk to people about building muscle, wanting to lose weight, start their fitness journey, I think you can do it either way, right? You can do it high carbs, you can do it the ketogenic style. It's like whatever is sustainable to you, like Robert said. You got to find what works best for you. Because if you're doing something that's not fun and you hate, it's not going to be sustainable. I don't care how great the results can be. If you're not happy about doing it, you can only do it for so long, and you're just setting yourself up for a disaster. But the main point that I really want to bring up and talk about is the reason why I can do one or the other is because I've overall changed my lifestyle, right? So what you have to understand is, before I started even doing keto and working out and trying to build muscle, was every day was a cheat day. Every day was Taco Bell, McDonald's, fast food, drinking on the weekends, drinking all the time. Every single day, every single week was a cheat day. So once I got healthy, it really opened up the door for me to pick and choose what I wanted to do, because the negative effects of food no longer impacted me as much. And then especially the choices of foods that I'm picking and eating are much better, right? So, I've always, now I'm a big proponent of, like, do what works for you. But if you're a client that's coming to me that's in horrible shape, and at level 0, we need to fix your lifestyle. We need to fix your overall eating habits before we can even talk about doing the other things later on, right? There's levels to this. Like there's a process to this. So that's something that I'm really big on is just finding what works for you.
Well, that identifying as someone who's healthy is the most important thing. I've been talking about that more recently. Like, just you making that decision is absolutely the most important thing, because that is going to dictate what you do forever. And that's like what's going to keep you on track. And I mean, you got to have the right information, but the minute you change your mindset of, I am healthy now, what would a healthy person do? That is huge. Robert?
Yeah, well, you were asking about what is a species appropriate diet. And I mean, honestly, what I consider species appropriate diet is pretty well in line with what I do from my own personal lifestyle nutrition standpoint. But from a overarching theme, I would say that a species appropriate diet is one, like, if you look at us as a species, if you look at our evolutionary past, like, it was not a high carbohydrate diet. It certainly wasn't a highly processed, highly refined carbohydrate diet. So just looking at it from a historical standpoint, I think a diet high in dietary fat and protein is the basis of our species appropriate diet. If you look at our digestive structure, we don't have a long cecum like orangutans do. So we're not designed to ferment a ton of vegetation like they are. If you look at the pH of our gut, the stomach acid that we obtain, like it's pretty much on par with that of, scavenging animals. So if you take all that into consideration, I think eating something relatively in line with what we consumed throughout our evolutionary past makes a lot of sense, which would pretty much rule out all the Hot Pockets and donuts, and probably beer and things of that nature. Now, we are an incredibly adaptable species, so we can consume pretty much anything and make it work for us. So that's why we're able to consume Twinkies and beer and alcohol and, highly refined sugars and processed foods and pizzas and still survive. So I've tried to find ways to thrive and basically just be able to maximize what my own inherent potential is in the absence of all that noise. And that's kind of where it becomes like human species as a species is very unique. Like if you look at any other species in the animal kingdom, anything in the mammalian kingdom apart from us, there's not any debate as to what their diet is. They eat what they eat, they function with that, and it works really well for them. There is within our species because there's so much of this psychological component to it. And that psychological component is what bodes to this sustainability factor. So, humans are just kind of weird in that regard. But me personally, I think that I feel and perform best objectively with a species appropriate diet that's in line with our evolutionary past. And I've found ways to kind of, hone that in from a performance-based standpoint with my bodybuilding endeavors. So throughout my bodybuilding endeavors, throughout my day-to-day, I eat relatively high fat, moderate protein, depending on where I'm at in the competition prep protocol, and then relatively low dietary carbohydrates. And I think we did consume vegetation, at various points. So I'll throw in some veggies on occasion, but I'm certainly not making that a staple of my nutrition. I'm not leaning on vegetation to, be the backbone of my performance per se.
I like that. That's kind of where the world's headed. They're like, wait a second, why do we need all these fruits and vegetables again?
Yeah.
And I'm glad people are waking up to that. I mean, maybe it can be good if you, flavor fun, put them on the side. You can get some temporary satiation from those foods, like your stomach can feel full, which could help people. I've noticed just, I don't do a lot of coaching of clients, but some people, if they just eat meat, they can eat a lot of meat because they're just used to feeling full. And let's add some sauerkraut and pickles or whatever, fill up your stomach a little bit with something with these like lower anti-nutrient stuff, healthier versions, whole foods, then that could help people. But yeah, I don't think a ton of vegetation is required for health. And that's maybe the main difference in the mainstream view compared to ours. Well, other than red meat is a health food to us. And so it's red meat's a health food and we don't need all this vegetation. It's fine, right? Whole foods are fine, but this is not required for a healthy diet.
Yeah,
Logan,
totally.
You didn't really tell your version. You don't have to go in detail, but like generally, what do you think is human diet?
Yeah, definitely. It's like what our ancestors did, right? Where they went out for a hunt. They'd go hunt, they'd kill this big mammoth, and they'd have a lot of food for a couple of days and then kind of rest a little bit and then go out for a hunt a couple of days later. So almost that like where they stocked up on fats and proteins. They definitely weren't eating, like Robert said, they definitely weren't just walking over to their version of a pantry and just grabbing some snacks. I'm like, I'm kind of bored. Grab this chips and Hot Pockets. Yeah. So definitely a high fat, high protein diet and fasting. I think fasting was something that's really big with our ancestors, right? And I know a lot of people still incorporate that today. And I think there's so many benefits to fasting. I mean, it's like one of the number one, in my opinion, tools to fix anything that's going on in your body, right? Whether you're sick, you're something's going on internally. Fasting is one of the best tools that you can use to repair your cells. And definitely high fat, high protein diet.
Yeah, especially for fat loss. A lot of people just eating in a smaller eating window is really helpful. There's benefits beyond that, like mitochondria and like longevity type stuff with fasting. But what do you guys think about overdoing it? I see some people, they may overdo the fasting, maybe women, maybe overdoing the ketosis. I guess you're going to have different opinion, Robert, but I want to hear about that first with Logan real quick.
Well, yeah, it's a saying that I've always said, and I know Robert has heard me say this before. It's like numbers and diets are simple, but people are complicated. And so, it's hard to say what's, that's too much fasting, because everyone's goal is different. Like my main goal, I can't speak for Robert because he's a lot smaller than me.
Oh,
Shots fired.
That's the first dig. It took a long time. It took, come on, we're long overdue. 40 minutes in, like, come on. But my main goal is to build muscle, and I want to be jacked. I want to look good. I want to be big. And, fasting is not something that really kind of fits that lifestyle for me right now. I need to eat. I'm already busy enough, with kids and a business, that I can't be missing meals. I need to be getting that adequate protein in. I need to be getting that fat in. I need to be getting those macros in. And so it's going to be different for everybody. Yes. Overall, is fasting beneficial? Absolutely. Overall, ketogenic diet, great for people. Absolutely. Now, how long should they be doing it? How long should they be in ketosis? That depends, right? Are they doing it for therapeutic reasons? Are they doing it just to do it? But yeah, like, we've seen people, I know we three have seen people online, like, where they just like obsess with being in ketosis. They need to be in ketosis 24/7. If they get knocked out, they freak out. And it's like, dude, you're going to be okay, bro. Like, I promise you don't need to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be different for everybody. But for me, it's all about your goals, right? And for me right now, currently, building muscle, maintaining muscle is my number one priority. So I need to be eating a lot of meals. And Brian, you said you do 2 big meals. For me, I've tried OMAD. I've tried, 1 big meal, 2 big meals. It just doesn't work out for me. I don't like that feeling of just being full and bloated and just full of food. I personally just like to spread my meals out. I like to spread them out 4 to 5 meals a day. They're definitely a lot smaller. But that's just the way that I prefer to do things, and it's what's worked for me, and it's really benefited me in my muscle building phase.
Yeah, it's like the classic kind of bodybuilding style. How many grams of protein per meal?
Yeah, so I'm aiming for 30 to 40 grams per meal for sure. Yeah. And like I'm roughly, aiming around 200 grams a day, right? So if I'm already close, if I'm close enough at the end of my last meal, then I can obviously have a shorter, a smaller amount of protein. Mm-hmm. But that's typically what my main focus is. And I want to talk about that topic as well. I want to talk about protein, but we can finish on this one.
Go there next. I want to hear Robert's approach.
Yeah. So I do not do a lot of extended fasting. I do intermittent fasting kind of by default. Like it's 11:45 here right now, and I haven't eaten yet today. But when I train, like today's my off day from the training, when I train in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would have eaten by now. So I'm not a fan of extended fasting for weight loss purposes, and that may ruffle some feathers, but being in a caloric deficit is a stressor on the body. Being in an extended fast is also a stressor on the body. If you have too many stressors on the body, that's not necessary or optimal. So I'll do intermittent fasting by default, just simply because of the way I structure my meal frequency, my meal timing, my training time. But when it comes to extended fasting, I don't really do that unless I'm really in an aggressive surplus. And then I'm just doing that every quarter or every, once or twice a year. I'll do like a 48 to, 72-hour fast to just get my digestive system a break, have all that, cell apoptosis, autophagy, cell turnover, all that stuff that you hear as buzzwords now. But I don't ever do that in the context of also being in a caloric deficit, because that, like I said, would be too many stressors on the body. So yeah, I personally, as far as meal timing goes, I'm typically sticking with about 2 or 3 meals a day. When I transition to a prep and I'm at the very lowest intake of my, caloric allotment for the day, I'll sometimes transition that into an OMAD, because for me personally, when my calories are that low for that finite period of time, I find it more enjoyable to have one large meal that actually satisfies me than have multiple smaller meals that always just leave me wanting more.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, I hate that feeling of like restriction of like, oh man, I'm still hungry. So that's why I've settled on 2 meals a day, and that works for me. I don't feel restricted. 1 meal I think is too much. But also, you guys are talking about calorie deficits. This is so different when you're talking about the normal mainstream doctors, mainstream nutritionists, oh, just get a calorie deficit. You guys are talking about getting all your nutrients, getting your protein, getting your nutrients, and then being in a calorie deficit in your energy calories. You're eating less carbs and fat, or both, right?
Yep.
And you're not just restricting protein or, restricting calories arbitrarily. You are getting all your protein and then restricting that energy, which is way different than normal mainstream people. And how much protein do you go for? You're talking about moderate. I mean, it depends on when you're training or for a show or not. Robert, what's your protein goal?
Yeah, so protein's interesting, and we can dive super deep into protein. And there's so much controversy around protein right now. And I've said this on multiple podcasts, but like if you got in the keto space, 4 or 5 years ago, everybody was fearful of protein and gluconeogenesis, and they minimized protein. And now the pendulum has swung so far in the opposite direction that it's kind of funny. People are almost starting to villainize fat, even within the keto space, and just put protein on a pedestal. And as is true with most things in life, the answer falls somewhere in the middle. Like protein is incredibly important. It should not be minimized. But, it's also true that if 160 grams of protein is good, 350 grams isn't necessarily great. Like there is a threshold for each individual depending on their amount of lean mass, what their daily output is, recovery, et cetera, et cetera. So for me personally, right now, I weigh about 180 pounds. I'm about to start my prep, but I'm still in a building phase at the moment. Right now, I'm kind of leveling out around maintenance before I start my prep. So my protein goal is to consume about, 180 to 220 grams of protein. If I'm in that window right now, I'm solid. Now, when I go through a prep, there are times when I do titrate that protein down. There's times when I titrate that protein up. Like I do make protein a manipulated variable for sure, but there's always a reason for it. I think it's very important to make sure you're consuming adequate protein.
I like it. Logan, you had more protein talk?
Yeah. I want to get Robert's opinion on this. So, you said you do, 2, maybe 3 meals. What is your stance on spiking protein synthesis and how?
Yeah,
there's a lot of talk out there that your body can handle 4 to 5 spikes of protein synthesis, which is important when you want to build muscle. So taking advantage, why in the bodybuilding space is why they want to do 5 meals, because they want to spike that protein synthesis 5 times.
Yeah, I feel like if you're getting ample protein throughout the day and you're activating muscle protein synthesis, via the weight training, and you're getting, I think if you hit at least 2 meals with, ample protein, ample leucine to activate muscle protein synthesis, you're totally fine in that regard. Now, if you are consuming, inadequate amounts of protein, then you'd probably benefit from having greater frequencies of that. And then when I transition to OMAD and I'm only doing one meal a day, that is when I'm in a caloric deficit, and my priority at that point is no longer to build muscle so much as it is to preserve the tissue that I've already got for those last few weeks or a month of prep that I have remaining. So in a building phase, yeah, I do at least 2 meals a day with ample protein in each meal. And then depending on how aggressive I am with my calories, then I'll bump it up to 3, sometimes 3 meals a day. But yeah, I think 2 meals is for sure like the baseline if you're trying to optimize muscle building, but I don't think that you need to do 7 meals a day to maximize muscle protein synthesis and spiking that protein amount standpoint.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing. Yeah, no, it's funny, Robert, how you said like how the pendulum has swung. Like when you and I first started and we would talk about how much protein we're having, you'd get called out because you'd say, well, you're not doing keto, your protein's too high, or you're gonna knock yourself out of ketosis, you're gluconeogenesis.
I don't think I ever said that. There definitely were people that were saying that.
No, definitely not you. No, there were other people. I'm saying like we would hear that. We would hear that in our space, right? People would always comment on our page, and I don't know the context of what she posted, but Gabrielle Line just posted something on her Instagram, and I wish I could remember the exact details, but it was almost like kind of summarize it. It was she was talking about their studies that the body almost has no limit, or they don't know what the threshold of too much protein is. As she's very big on getting protein in, and you can't have enough protein, and protein's the number one thing you should be focusing on. So yeah, what do you think, or what do you two think is the threshold for too much protein?
So I can 100% vouch for the fact that if one consumes too much protein, they're just simply not going to be optimized. You're not going to have near the adverse response that you would if you were consuming those calories from processed sugars and carbohydrates by any means. But if I'm dialed in for a prep and I'm titrating my protein up, once I exceed what my personal threshold is at that time, then I will notice increase in inflammation. My joints will start hurting more. I'll notice more brain fog. I'll have more bloat. I'll have more GI distress. All of that is brought on by over exceeding my protein demands for that point in time. So I don't think there's going to be near the adverse effects, like I said, that you would see from those calories coming from processed carbohydrates. But I don't think it's wise to say that, hey, protein's a free for all. You can't overdo it, have a heyday, because that's just not the case either.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's kind of self-limiting. Like most people aren't in the bodybuilding space, and most people aren't gonna be overeating protein. I don't think that's a huge problem for people, but it's good to think about. And I just interviewed her for the film. She happened to be in Denver, and we grabbed her, and she has a lot of good messaging about that. And especially for older people.
Yeah, for sure.
Older people need to, keep up their protein intake. They need to strive for more protein. They do not need to be worried about getting too much protein. It's harder for them to even digest and use the protein as they age. Super important, but general population, I don't think they're going to have concerns about it. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be like a clear upper limit on it. I just think the RDAs are too low.
I totally agree with that. I feel like that context needs to be pronounced for sure, because a lot of people, like most people in the space are not, the outlying bodybuilders like we are. So the messaging that they're putting out there is not for us per se. Like Logan and I are not having a problem getting enough protein in. Like he and I both say we're around 200 grams of protein a day. That is not low protein by anybody's definition. Like my mom, I'm trying to get her to eat more protein, and I'm like, you got to be getting at least 120 grams a day, bare minimum. And she's like, okay, I think I hit my protein for the day. And she sent me all her food, and she got like 60 grams of protein. Oh, no. It's like, okay, you got to double that now. And most people in general population, you're absolutely right, are just simply not consuming adequate protein. So I think the general messaging in the keto space, the pendulum has swung too far the opposite direction. But for a lot of the people that those ears that's falling on, they need to hear that messaging. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, and let me say, like, people wondering why it's hard to get protein in. Dude, try to go eat like 10 ounces of chicken or, 10 ounces of steak, and it's hard. It is very hard. I struggle, guys. I mean, I'm a wannabe bodybuilder. I joke around all the time, but it is hard to get enough protein in, and I totally get it. Like, your mom struggling with getting her protein in. I get it. Same here. My dad, my mom would struggle getting in the adequate protein because it fills you up, keeps you satiated. And then sure enough, your next meal, you'll need to eat more. And you're like, oh, I'm so full. Like, I'm not hungry.
That's why it's such a good hack, because most people need to lose weight, lose fat specifically. So you guys are saying the exact right things. It should be music to your ears. If you need to lose fat, lean into protein. It is going to help you. You're going to win that battle. Losing weight is this battle of hunger, right? And go back to the satiety stuff and all that. What it's talking about. It's just a battle of hunger. And how do you win that battle? You win it with protein, and you win it with whole foods. And another problem is the food environment, I guess you call it. I hate that term food environment though. Like, we're in a obesogenic food environment. All right, well, I guess, there's fast food everywhere, but you got to make your own food environment. The problem with the general foods out there they are low in protein. You get any meal, it is kind of low in protein. Protein is expensive. If I go out to eat, which I don't like to do, I don't care to go out to eat, really. I just make my own food. It tastes better. There's a million reasons why. I just like it better to eat at home. It would be expensive. If I go to some good restaurant, they use good meat, they use good ingredients, I'm going to have to order double the protein. Yeah. And it's going to be a $25 meal. Even just like a fast casual healthy restaurant, it's going to be $25. So I get it why people are having problem, like people's parents. It's like, you just go out and it's hard. Robert, what are some other problems with your mom? Because people, I feel like, just don't even know what 120 grams of protein looks like. It sounds like your mom's just like, oh, I thought I was eating protein, and she wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't even know what great sources of protein are. I mean, she ate on that sample day that she sent me she ate a cup of pistachios, and she's like, I got a lot of protein with that, right? I'm like, well, you're getting a lot of carbs from the pistachios, you're getting a lot of fat with the pistachios, you're getting a little bit of protein. So a lot of people just simply don't know what foods provide what macronutrients. So education around that would be key. And then people they have a very inflated idea of how much protein is in certain foods. Like she ate 3 eggs and she thought she made a pretty good dent in her protein requirements for the day. Typical eggs got 5 grams of protein. Like 3 eggs is great, but you got to like have a whole bunch of those eggs to make up for it, So just simply familiarizing yourself with what foods contain what nutrients is key. And I'm a big fan of tracking macros, and I'm not suggesting that everybody has to become a slave to a macro tracker to do so. But I feel like if people simply tracked their intake for a little while, they would have a ton of insight as to what they were consuming, and then they could take that knowledge and use it going forward. That doesn't mean you have to become a slave to a tracker. I'm all for intuitive eating, but you don't really have the like if you are not in a place where you want to be compositionally speaking or health speaking, then you don't really have the right to eat intuitively yet. You have to put in some legwork to learn some basics, and then you can eat intuitively. Like I'm all for people eating intuitively if they're where they're at, they're happy, they're healthy, they're not a burden to society. But if you are massively obese, if you cannot simply get down your own stairs or walk outside your own door, then it behooves you to familiarize yourself with what foods contain, and then put forth a little legwork to figure out what those foods contain, and then optimize accordingly.
Yeah, that's super your mom's important. Not the only one struggling with getting their protein in. I'm telling you, guys, for sure. Like I go into the gym and I'll occasionally get like, oh man, dude, how do I get as big as you? I want to get big. And I'm like, well, you got to eat, man. You got to eat. You're getting your protein. What are you eating? And I'm like, oh, dude, I trust me, bro. I eat a lot. Okay, cool, man. Like, tell me what you're eating. What'd you eat today? Well, I had some turkey, some turkey bacon. I had 3 eggs and a little bit of yogurt. Oh, okay, it's cool. What'd you have for lunch? Oh, well, I had a chicken salad. It's like they tell me their meals, and I'm like, dude, you barely cracked maybe 100 grams. Like you're not eating enough. And so this misconception, like Robert said, of people always think they're eating more than they are when it comes to protein. Right. But when it comes to like overall calories, they're like, well, I can't lose weight. I'm only eating this. And then it's like, well, you're throwing in a lot of this and that. So it's weird. But at the end of the day, the like I said, if you truly want to know what's going on in your body, you truly want to have a good grasp of how much you're eating when it comes to fats, proteins, and carbs, you need to be tracking. Like absolutely. Again, it's not something you have to do. Everybody needs to do. Like my mom, there's no way I could get my mom to track her macros. Like she would just would not get it. But it is one of those things where I think it happens all the time. People do it in the gym all the time, man. I can't get stronger. I can't get bigger. I'm like, you're not eating enough. Like plain and simple, you're just not eating enough.
Yeah. Well, no, these are good messages. And I think you're right on is most people don't know what 150 grams of protein looks like. Most people aren't hitting that at all. I fell victim to the same thing. I thought I ate 3 eggs and a piece of bacon. I'm like, that's like 20 grams of protein. That is not enough protein. So tracking, yes, I don't think it's good long-term for the general population. I don't think many people want to do it. I'm sure there's a lot of bodybuilders, physique competitors that absolutely want to do it and should do it, but you have to learn. You definitely should learn. Maybe you don't have to track your macros. You need to have a hardcore course on what food you're eating for the day and what does it contain, what protein, what fat, what carbs, what calories. I mean, it's a learning experience that everyone should do so they can learn. And maybe they only do it once, right? And they get it and they're like, okay, now I can do this intuitively from now on. But no one really just even learns it in the first place. And then I guess I'll oppose myself with that. If we're talking about someone who's obese and they don't have the right to eat intuitively, you may be right, but maybe there is a way to do it because they're not eating intuitively. They're just eating whatever the hell they want. They're just eating garbage. So it's like with those obese people, you actually could lose a ton of fat if you just completely change your food selection, right? If you were just like, okay, my food options now are beef and chicken and some vegetables, whatever, and eggs. Like if you just ate from a certain group of foods that were healthy whole foods with good protein, then you could eat intuitively and lose a lot of fat. Right.
Yeah.
But then, yes. So it's just, but no one, I guess, I don't know. Maybe people won't do that. Maybe
And I
people won't
think,
stick to those foods.
yeah, and I think if you're following, a diet that does not involve a ton of processed foods, processed sugars, sweets, high glycemic index foods, the ability to eat intuitively is much more on cue because you're sending your body the right hunger signals. Like, whereas if you're eating a bunch of sugar all the time, you're constantly spiking your blood sugar, your insulin response. You're going to have these hunger cravings shift and fall. So if you're eating more real foods, more fats and proteins, then you'll likely have a better satiety signal and you'll probably consume more protein by default. So it'd be much easier to eat intuitively.
100%. 100%. Okay. Let's dive into a little more on the carb aspect. Do you think, what are the benefits of carbs? Well, I guess I'll let you go first. Like why, and Robert will maybe say why you don't need them, but what do you think are the benefits of carbs, Logan?
Yeah, it's for me, and when I do have carbs, to put everything in context, is I normally structure my carbs pre and post workout. And so for me, having carbs before a workout, you're going to instantly get that, that boost, right? The way I always look at fats as like you said, Brian, they're energy sources, right? Fats and carbs are an energy source. So the difference is, well, with carbs, glucose, you're going to instantly get that like boom, like rocket fuel, just instantly get that energy and use it. Well, with fats, it's more of a slow burning energy, right? It's like very steady. And so for me, again, do I need to have carbs before workout? No. But the benefits for me is that it just gives me that extra boost, that extra pump. I'm able to get a bigger pump in the gym with carbs personally. And then I use them I use them post workout for recovery, and to use that glucose that I put in to obviously use it to where, have it go where it needs to go right after a workout into my muscles and repairing. But I just want to make it clear that, hey, you could do it either way. But for me personally, yes, when I do have carbs, I do have them. I utilize them. I look at them as a tool. I just don't have them just to have them, right? If I'm going to have carbs, they're going to be before or after a workout.
So you feel like you have a better workout from them?
Yeah, I think so. I do. Personally, I feel better. I know I look fuller. I look more pumped up. And I just prefer them definitely before workout than doing a ketogenic approach before a workout. Again, just for me personally, I feel flatter. I feel flatter, and I don't feel that extra kick in the gym that I would have if I had 40 or 30 to 50 grams pre-workout.
Interesting. Well, before I let Robert go, I'm going to talk from my own experience a little bit. I thought that I wouldn't have energy, and when I cut carbs, and I had a bad couple weeks. This was many years ago. Actually, I had the bad 1 week. I remember playing beach volleyball. This was when I really went in ketosis 5-6 years ago. I had to leave. I showed up to the beach volleyball and I left after like 2 games. But then it all came, right? It came in. My energy was consistent. I didn't need carbs. I even went carnivore a few years back too. Maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I always get the years wrong. I had amazing energy. I don't do carnivore. I'm not into carnivore, but I remember when I went absolutely zero carb, I had amazing energy. I had amazing workouts. I did a video on my Instagram 4 or 5 years ago. I played basketball for 2 hours straight. We barely took a break. It was just running games in this gym. And then I did wind sprints at the end after, and I did a little video. I'm like, man, I've been zero carb. I have amazing energy. This is crazy. So I kind of understand both sides of it. But maybe it's just getting used to it. You know what I mean? It sounds like Robert, it's just like, you don't need that like for energy anymore. So I guess because most people aren't going to do 5 years like I did and, do all this stuff and then get used to it and dial in my diet and then go this zero carb. And I get it. if you're just coming off the couch, you're going to have low energy when you try to go work out on keto. So I'm not saying either way, because I'm not keto. I'm not, I do have carbs now, but I just understand both sides. So Robert, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so it's definitely just a level of adaptation, phenomenon that occurs there from an energy standpoint. So like if you have been eating carbohydrates your whole life and then you take the carbs out, then you are physiologically shifting your body's entire fuel source from carbs and glucose to fat and ketones. That's not going to happen instantaneously. So if someone starts a ketogenic diet, removes that carbohydrate, their body has not yet adapted to learning how to preserve and replenish muscle glycogen in the absence of carbohydrates. So they're not going to feel great from an energy standpoint for the first several months, honestly. So when it comes to performance bodybuilding specifically, you really just have to play that adaptation game quite a bit longer. You'll start to notice the psychological benefits and mental acuity without the carbohydrates relatively quick. But if from a weightlifting standpoint, it's going to take quite a bit longer to really tap into your full potential from a ketogenic standpoint. And that's going to be a little bit different for everybody. For me, it was probably like I tell people, give it 6 months strict before you really decide one way or the other. And that's a long time. 6 months is no walk in the park. But I've been doing this strictly now for 8 years. My body's ability to use fat and ketones and lipids for energy is right on par with it would be from someone that's consuming carbohydrates and glucose for energy. Like I have zero energy deficits throughout the day, pre-workout, post-workout. Like I have no issues with energy. And people that have been doing this for a long time typically don't. Your body, once you become fat adapted to that extent, is not likely going to tap into stored muscle glycogen as readily as it would with carbohydrates throughout anaerobic activities. And then its ability to replenish that muscle glycogen also improves after that length of adaptation. So you don't have to have the carbohydrates from an energy standpoint or from a muscle glycogen and pump standpoint once you have become that deeply adapted. The key is to simply become that deeply adapted, which again is not a trivial thing. It takes quite a bit of time. As far as whether or not carbohydrates are necessary for muscle building, there's pretty much 4 pillars you have to check when it comes to building muscle. You have to be eating at a caloric surplus in order to provide more nutrients coming in to build more tissue. You have to be consuming ample protein. You have to be subjecting your body to enough load to elicit a stimulus response and adapt to that load. And that's, ideally going to come through progressive overload. You have to be recovering enough so that your body is able to build and repair that tissue. So if you check those 4 boxes, you're going to build muscle. Carbohydrates do not necessarily enhance that. Now, things like insulin is an extreme growth agent. So if you have elevated insulin because of more carbohydrates, you might likely grow more tissue. But that's not going to be isolated to just muscle tissue. It's also going to be fat tissue, cancer cell tissue, all kinds of tissue. And for me, I haven't noticed any inherent benefit by increasing carbohydrate consumption. Like when I used to consume carbs versus now without carbs, I didn't notice a period of time in which I was building more lean tissue. So for me, I don't feel like it's necessary at all.
That's interesting. And I'll let you go, Logan. I've interviewed these guys like Stu Phillips is a PhD, Keith Barr is a PhD. There's more. These guys, they're just like, yes, in the literature, there's no necessity for carbs to build muscle. So it's just kind of like that personal preference. And I always say, well, yeah, some people just say that it worked better for them, and then that's fine. And right, it's like I can't argue with that. Maybe you could get adapted, right? I see both sides. Maybe you could just get adapted. You think that you need them now, maybe you don't, but I don't know. Maybe you don't want to be in ketosis forever. Maybe that's another thing. Like I don't. What were we going to say, Logan?
Yeah, no, it's and when I would have my carbs, it's a very small amount. Like I think when people, like when I would tell people like, hey, I have carbs, they're probably thinking like I have this massive bowl of rice and beans and sweet potatoes. No, I think I would only go in, even during my prep, I would have 30 grams of carbs, which is not a lot. Like if I showed you what a bowl of 30 grams looks like of rice, of carbs, like not 30 grams of rice, but 30 grams of carbs coming from rice, it's almost nothing. Right. Mm-hmm. And so for those of you who, again, like just experiment on yourself. Don't take what I say works for me and Robert. Like you got to know what works for you. But then also at the same time, if you do want to take a ketogenic approach, which I was kind of testing, just doing experiments on myself. I wanted to see, okay, if I eat a ketogenic diet, but I have carbs before my workout. How long would it take before I get back in ketosis? Remember, I'm having a very small amount of carbs going into the workout. My workouts are intense and they do have cardio for post-workout. So I most likely am going to burn up through those 30 grams of carbs through the workout and cardio. And I found out doing the testing on myself, within hours, I was back in ketosis. So think about that, guys. Ketogenic diet, but having carbs before my workout and burning up those carbs, utilizing those carbs, remember, because I'm looking at them as a tool for the gym, my mindset at least, and getting right back in ketosis 2 to 3 hours later after the workout. So just interesting stuff, right? Just, again, just experiments that I ran on myself, and it was pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was just saying you're talking to a whole different crowd of people. Of like you're like an athlete is burning the carbs. It's like you gotta be mindful that some people they're eating like an athlete. The food pyramid tells them to eat like an athlete, and they're sitting at a desk all day.
Yep.
So yeah, what were you gonna say, Robert?
Yeah, just that I agree with Logan completely. I mean, you're going to burn through 30 grams of carbohydrates relatively quickly with that type of activity load. I do think that consumption of the carbohydrates would inhibit your body's optimal ability from a fat metabolism standpoint, and that wouldn't necessarily keep you from getting back into ketosis, as is seen by registering 0.5 on a ketone meter within that time frame by any means. So I don't disagree with that at all. I just think, like, for me personally, by not having those 30 grams of carbs, I'm not worried about me being kicked out of ketosis so much as I am just simply wanting to optimize my body's ability to metabolize fat. And if you include carbohydrates, that's just simply going to act as a hurdle for that level of fat metabolism.
Yeah. Well, I want to make this more approachable to the general audience. And I think, yeah, I mean, for bodybuilders, yeah, this is great info. Also want to say you guys should, anyone listening should look up these two guys. They're both super big, super shredded. I've been following them for years. We've known each other, for a few years now. And I've seen their journeys. Like they do their muscle prep, they're showing their prep online and like, it's insane. So either there's so many approaches. If you're just doing the fundamentals, like Robert laid out those 4 pillars, that's amazing. That's super helpful. And yes, you can definitely do it either way. So at least it goes against the mainstream of like, oh man, you need carbs to get muscular. That's not true. But how do we make this more approachable for just people? I mean, why should people even care about body composition? Why should they care about lifting weights? Because yes, 90% of people do not really go to the gym or care about muscle. 99% of people aren't, actual like really into it. So what about the 90% of people out there? Logan, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think, like, again, we've heard this a lot, is building muscle, maintaining muscle is the key to longevity, right? You want to, as you get older, it gets more and more important to maintain your muscle. Now, let's not even get into the vanity aspect of it, even though for me, that was probably in the beginning, that was one of the big pillars for me, is like, I want to look good. I want to look shredded, right? But like, besides that, like, there's so many more benefits than building muscle, going to the gym. Like, you're going to have more energy. The more muscle you build, the more food that you can actually eat, right? So if you're someone who's like, man, I hate dieting, I hate being restricted. Well, guess what? If you build muscle, you can eat more food. If you build muscle, the more muscle you have, the easier it is for you to lose weight. So there's so many benefits to building muscle and exercising. And so for me, I want to be able to, again, everyone's goals are going to be different. But for me personally, I have 2 daughters, and they're 3 and 5 years old. They have just an insane amount of energy. Like, they're running around. They don't walk anywhere. They run everywhere. Like, they skip and hop and run. And as a father, I want to be able to keep up with my daughters. And again, I want to have more kids. And so I want to be able to thrive and enjoy my time with my kids and be able to walk and hike with them and hang out with them and play with them and not be tired. And because I've seen it, I get parents messaging me and they're like, oh man, like I really want to lose weight. I'm like, okay, why? What's your why, right? You got to find your why. And they're like, man, I just want to be able to keep up with my kids. I can't keep up with my kids anymore. I got to sit on the couch. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And I just feel so awful because as a parent, I want to be there for my kids. And so for me personally, that's my goal. Like, I want to be able to set a good example for my daughters. Like, I make sure I work out in front of my girls. I make sure any opportunity I have, like Robert, I'm super jealous at the compound, and you too, Brian, you have the Sapien Center. Like, if I had those two things, my kids would be there all the time participating in my workouts, right? But whenever I do go to the gym here in my neighborhood, it's a very small one, I try to take them with me, right? I want to show them the importance of exercising and why it's important, the benefits of it. So I want to pass that on to my kids. I want to be a healthy father that can thrive with my daughters as they get older. And so that's my goal. Other than, then overall, it's great for you, right? It's great for longevity.
Yeah. I love it. Robert, you got some more stuff there?
Yeah. So like, Logan and I are both bodybuilders. He's a wannabe bodybuilder, as he self-proclaimed himself there. But I think, I said earlier, and I don't want anybody to take offense to this, about how you haven't earned the right to eat intuitively. Like, I don't ever want people to hear anything I say or Logan says or anybody that is a bodybuilder and kind of operating on the fringe to think of us as like this elitist, putting ourselves on a pedestal group. Like, we both just want everybody to be healthy. And what's interesting is that while we are bodybuilders and we are operating on the fringe and doing extreme things, like the concepts hold true across the board for everybody. Like, they're all the same concepts. Like, if you eat quality foods, your body's going to respond well to that. If you train heavily and you subject your body to a load and it's forced to adapt to that stimulus, your body's going to respond favorably to that. Like, what we are doing is not anything that was out of reach of anybody else. We just want people to become healthier in its entirety. And I think, as you were saying about your girls, I've got a 10-month-old son now. Like, I want to be a pillar of health for him, for my wife. I want them to see inspiration in me. I want to prolong the ability that I have to interact with them and not just improve lifespan, but also health span. And I feel like when done correctly, we're all bodybuilders. We're all building our body in some form or fashion. We're either building it to become more resilient and more structurally sound, or we're building it to decay and fester. So we should all think of ourselves as bodybuilders in that sense. And I feel like if you put forth these common, healthy practices, like, people don't need to overthink it. Like we're talking about the like, if you look at life through an 80-20 lens, you can get 80% of the benefit from 20% of the input. And the 20% in this context is just simply eat quality, wholesome, nutrient-dense foods and move regularly, and like subject your body to some form of stimulus that's good, having some hormetic stressors there, like weight training and quality sleep. Like, if you're doing those things, then you're way ahead of the masses. We're trying to operate and optimize that last 20%, so to speak. But, just simply make the right decisions and then feel empowered to do so. Like, we all have it in our power to do so. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of like the message I want to lean on there.
I love that. And what's the minimum effective dose? Because yes, you guys are on the extreme. I'm kind of trying to figure out that minimum effective dose, partly because I'm lazy just like anyone else. Well, not really lazy, but you know what I mean? Like, no one wants to just do a bunch of work. I'm more efficient, I'd say, right? I got this engineering standpoint mindset. Like, how can I be most efficient? What's the minimum effective dose of exercise? I got a lot going on. Maybe once I finish the film, I could, work out more and I'll finally try to gain some muscle and not just be like a lean guy that's semi-cut. But right now is working. Like, I've built muscle. I have a good body composition from doing 2 25-minute workouts per week, plus playing beach volleyball on the weekend. That is my cardio. Whatever, right? I'm just doing this 3 hours of volleyball, but really in the gym, the actual muscle building portion is 2 25-minute workouts. I've kind of developed it by talking to the guys like Stu Phillips and Keith Barr. It's like, hey, you can blow in there, do going to failure, right? Let's do compound movements, go to failure. I use drop sets. I am like doing weighted dips, weighted pull-ups. Then I drop the weight down, do them again, drop the weight down, do them again. Like, I am fatiguing my muscles, going to failure in a very quick way. To me, that's a minimum effective dose. Like, I am absolutely maintaining, and I think I can gain if I push myself in those 2 25-minute workouts. I have a push day and a pull day. If I do push myself more, I can put on muscle, even with that little bit of exercise by going to failure, utilize drop sets, utilize compound movements. But that's why I'm trying to make this more approachable to the masses. I think people can do a lot, especially if you're just coming off the couch. Man, if you do my little workout thing, I call it hard 30. I just made an Instagram for it, hard 30. Look at it.
Nice.
The tagline is go hard, then go home.
I like it.
Right. It's like, that's my mindset. It's like, let's go hard, then go home. Like, we did it. We're good. Right. So what do you guys think is that kind of minimum effective dose? What do you think about my workout? What do you think normal people can do? Oh, I was going to say, yeah, off the couch, man, you could do this simple workout for 2 years and get shredded. Absolutely. If you want to go to the next level, don't listen to me. My little workout is not going to make you look like these two guys. They will tell you how to go to the next level. 90% of people, I think they can do my type of workout and do amazing. I'll let Robert go first this time.
Yeah, I mean, minimum effective dose is just simply a little bit more than you did last time, like that is the whole concept of progressive overload in and of itself. Like, you want to progressively overload your body and subject it to more load, more volume, more intensity, more something than you did previously. So it's got reason to continue adapting. Like with maintenance, like if you go in the gym and you always lift, 10-pound dumbbells for 20 reps, 2 days a week, then your body will grow up to the point where it needs to be able to subject itself and maintain that training load, but it won't really have reason to grow beyond that. So, increasing the weight, increasing the rep count, increasing the intensity, throwing in drop sets, throwing in supersets. Like, you don't have to go all out and do everything to failure every time, because then you'll likely burn out and risk injury. But if you're increasing incrementally something every time, then you're certainly setting yourself up for success long term.
Before I go to Logan, but what do you think? So yeah, I'm not saying going to failure all the time. That's my version of progressive overload. Is I don't really count. It's just my overload is going to failure, and I can recover from that too. It's not like I'm doing this all the time. Yes, if you're a real bodybuilder or you do work out a lot, you don't want to try to go to failure like all the time. But since mine is so low dose. But what do you think about my?
Yeah, I mean, I think yours is solid. And like with things like your weighted dips, for instance, like last month, what were you doing on weighted dips?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going now. I mean, yeah, I do 50-pound dumbbells. It's like I hang a 50-pound, and I should actually be going up more. But yes, I will either increase the weight or increase the number.
Yeah, so if you're doing that, then you're checking that progressive overload box for sure. I mean, you're either increasing the weight, increasing the rep count, maybe doing an additional drop set, maybe just simply subjecting your body to more time under tension, so going a little bit more slow and control with those repetitions. Like, any of those would be considered progressive overload.
Nice. All right, Logan, what are your thoughts? Yeah. For the everyday person, right?
Everyday person, yeah, absolutely. Look, these are the biggest tips I can give for an everyday person. Like, let's aim for 2 to 3 times a week. Let's do some type of resistance training, right? No, you don't need a gym. You can just get creative at your house. You can do body movements, right? Whether that's, push-ups, sit-ups, air squats, lunges. Find everybody's got to have something heavy inside your house. Lift that up. Just get creative. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so some of my biggest recommendations on how I got started and how I kept it going is you have to find a time that works best for you. So find what time works best for you to work out. Is that before the kids wake up? Is that early in the morning after you drop them off? Is that during your lunch? Is that after work, immediately after work? Is that when the kids go to sleep and you want to get it in at night? Like, find the best time that you can commit 30 to 40 minutes a day of just, focus training or working out. And you'll set yourself up for success. You'll be better off than, like Brian said, 90% of America, because nobody's doing this, right? You don't absolutely need a gym. No, you don't. If you do have the opportunity to get into a gym, then do it. Cool. But it's not something that should be holding you back. You can definitely do something at the house, get creative, just get moving, do something that's intense. Don't go through the motions. Like Robert said, like if you're going into the gym every day or you're doing something every day, it's like, well, this air squats calls for 30 air squats and then I'm just going to do it. And you do that every week. No, next week, go for 31. Next week, go for 32. You're progressively overloading, right? Over the weeks. And so you don't need to spend hours and hours in the gym. People think that I spend hours and the hours in the gym. If I do spend more than an hour in the gym, it's because I'm there and there's a lot of people there and a lot of my friends there, and we're just chatting, busting each other's balls and having a good time. You know, for me personally, another thing we never dove into, but for me, going to the gym, it's my therapy session. Like for me, it's free therapy. Like it's just, you're stressed out from the day, you're stressed out from work, and you get to go into the gym and listen some heavy ass shit, listen to some music, and hang out with friends. Like it's, and talk, right. And just talk about life. It's such a, just for me, it's absolute therapy and it's cheap. But for the everyday person, like I said, you got to find what works best for you. Find a set time that works best for you that you can commit to, and just push yourself. If you're not sweating, if you're just like, you got to be pushing yourself. You can't be like, all right, cool, just did this 10 times, next. Like, no, you need to be some form of struggling, some form of intensity in that workout.
I'm so about that. That's why I go hard, then I go home. It's like, you're not going to get anywhere if you're not working. You're not working hard. You're not getting the progressive overload. And I think so many people who didn't play sports growing up, they don't know how to push themselves. I don't want to be like elitist just because I played sports, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, you have to be uncomfortable. Some people who play sports it's easier you're forced to be uncomfortable and push yourself a lot more than other people. So I think that's something I see. I don't know, maybe more women, they don't push themselves. They like to do workouts. I guess yoga can be hard, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the women I've talked to. They're not there. They don't like to just throw weights around, right? They don't want, I don't know. What do you think about those people? It's like, who just don't feel comfortable throwing weights around.
You got to start somewhere. I mean, like,
you got to start.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. I mean, and you don't have to know everything. Like, start with the machine. Like, there's like a little diagram on the machine that shows you the movement. It's pretty hard 100%. To mess that up. And even if it's not perfect, it's something. So just do that. And then as you do that, you're going to start recognizing, okay, what does a bicep curl feel like? What does a leg extension feel like? What does it feel like when my hamstring's contracting? And then once you do that with machines, then you're going to be able to apply that to free weights like lunges and stuff like that.
Yeah, guys, look, if people were to see me my first week into the gym, you would laugh. But everybody starts somewhere. Right. We just didn't, me and Robert just didn't wake up one day and just like, all right, going to the gym. I know exactly what to do. Let's start deadlifting. Let's start squatting. Let's start, power cleaning. Like, no, like absolutely not. I started off with machines. As a matter of fact, I started off with a trainer. I went to Anytime Fitness, which is like a very generic, a gym here in America. And I just started off with machines, and I just literally hopped from machine to machine to machine to machine. So I would go into the gym. I'd be training my chest, training my legs, training my back, training my arms. And then slowly over time, I got to like, oh, okay, well, there's going to be dedicated days to this, right? Like one day I'll come in and do all legs. One day I'll do all back. One day I'll do all chest and upper body, push, pull legs. And again, for those of you who are new to this may sound confusing, like push, pull legs. Like, what is he talking about? I don't get this. Just get into the gym like everything else in life. The only way you're going to get better is through experience. But please let me tell you, I probably look like an idiot and I didn't know shit about the gym when I got in. But over time, I got used to it. I got experience. And then I am finally here where I'm at today, where I then graduated from the machines and started doing free weights. And then from free weights, started doing more advanced stuff. I even did CrossFit for a little bit, guys. And that was pretty crazy, like the type of exercises you do there. But the only way you're going to get better at something is experience. So don't care about what anybody thinks. Trust me, everyone's life, everyone's going through their own problems, their own issues. Like nobody cares about what you're doing in the gym. So I know a lot of people think, I go to the gym, everyone's staring at me. People think I'm doing this machine wrong. So what? If you are, you are. Everyone starts somewhere. I was doing things wrong. I was making mistakes. The only way I got better is through experience, and you can too. Stop thinking and caring about what other people think, or people are staring at you in the gym. Trust me, everyone has got so much damn problems nowadays. Nobody's worried about you in the gym. I promise.
I love that. I love it. Yeah, just lift some things, do some resistance. Just that's my main goal, to let people know. Don't just do jogging, don't just do like simple stretching classes. That's fine, it's great. I just encourage all people, push your muscles, tell your muscles to get stronger. At least do something like that. You don't have to be a muscle bro. You do not have to be a muscle bro, but I think everyone can benefit from that resistance training. There's so many different ways. So let's talk about KetoCon real quick. I can't wait for it. It's going to be in a month. It's basically in 4 weeks from now. You guys will both be here. We're going to have a huge party at the Sapiens Center. I got to plug that. I just want people to put that on their calendar. April 22nd, that's Saturday. You don't have to go to KetoCon, but if you're in Austin, we are going to have a party. People have been following me. We had a big party last Wednesday. It was so fun. Lots of great food. We had about 250 people at the Sapiens Center. It was going nuts. It was so fun. So I want to make sure people come out to that and come to KetoCon. Absolutely. I love to support Robin and KetoCon. They gave me a code for $50 off if you use Food Lies. So that's my Instagram handle, Food Lies, and you can come and join us. We're going to have booths there. Nose to Tail's going to have a booth. Robert, are you going to have a booth this time?
Oh, yeah, man. We'll have a booth for sure.
What's your company?
So we'll have Keto Brick there. So we'll have the bricks there for anybody that wants to try those. We'll have our apparel too. Like we're printing the KetoCon shirts. So we're going to bring all of our apparel equipment and be printing those on site too. And I'll be speaking on the main stage on Sunday, I believe.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to speak on Sunday as well. And then Logan, I don't think BioCoach is going to do it this time. You guys are always at conferences. And, you know, you don't need to come to every conference to represent BioCoach, but you can come and represent in person.
We'll be there. We'll absolutely, we'll have a presence there. A couple of team members will be there. Obviously, Austin, that's my hometown. You know, that's my backyard. So we'll definitely be there. And then, yes, we will be at the Sapiens Center party, April 22nd. Absolutely. Come by, say what's up. It's going to be good music, good vibes, good everything. So make sure you come by, and then come by KetoCon too. Absolutely. Come watch Robert and Brian speak. Like I said, BioCoach won't have a booth there, but we'll be there hanging out nonetheless, and we're going to have good times. It always is. Like this, KetoCon is one of my favorite conferences because, we get to see each other, we get to hang out, and it's just like one big hangout for a whole weekend long, and I absolutely love it.
And it's great. And people don't need to be keto. This is not necessarily a keto conference. It's a metabolic health conference, really. And I think I was talking to Robin. She might probably change the name. You know, this is about metabolic health, right? You don't have to necessarily be in ketosis. You can, and it's great, or you can not, or you could do anything in between. But it's more about eating, understanding that animal foods are healthy, eating whole foods, and gaining metabolic health. And can't wait for the party. Can't wait to see you guys.
Robert, I know you go to sleep a little bit early. The party might go past 9. Are you going to be able to make it?
I'm going to try, man. My bedtime's definitely 8 o'clock in the morning, but or 8 o'clock in the evening, but I'll see what I can do. I'll be there for sure, though.
Well, okay. Well, if you don't make it in the morning, then at night, then I know you get up fucking super early. So I better see you at the Sapiens Center doing an ice plunge.
Oh man.
I've been doing the ice plunge every single day, so I'm all about that.
He's got 2 of them there, so
nice.
Well, good. Yeah, we'll have to open it up. We got a squat rack. Maybe we don't have enough weights for you guys. We actually don't have enough weights.
I'll just lift Robert. He'll be a quick little warm up set. Just lift him a couple times.
That might happen at the party. Maybe we'll have to do it before 8. We gotta have some squat sessions there. You guys can squat each other. It's gonna be fun. What's your guys' social media, Robert?
So I'm all things Keto Savage. So ketosavage.com, Keto Savage on social, and then the ketobrick.com and Keto Brick on social for our food product business.
Nice. And Logan?
Yeah, it's GoodyBeats on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, for as long as TikTok's still around. People listening to this might be gone by now. Instagram, and check out BioCoach, guys. BioCoach, we help people fix their metabolic diseases with nutrition, lifestyle change, coaching, meals, tracking your ketones, your blood glucose, checking your A1C, tracking your biomarkers. So then the more information you have on your body, the more information you have on yourself, the better you can make adjustments. So check it out. It's a subscription base, as low as $15 a month with coaching. Like I said, recipes, really, really awesome stuff. BioCoach.io.
I love it. I support both you guys. Support BioCoach. I got some of my good pals, Chris Irvin, Dr. Jamie Seaman, great people involved with that company.
And Robert too.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we
Robert,
go.
Yep. Robert's yes, Robert's is involved as well. It's definitely proud to have a amazing team.
And come by the Saving Center, come to Austin. And thanks so much, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah,
man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome opportunity. Yeah.
Good stuff.